So tonight is the culminating event of our junior week. On Friday of last week, we kicked off the week by sending you an email packed full of great information on what the school counseling department recommends your juniors should be doing to prepare for college applications. All of this week, counselors have been presenting in junior English classes to help them learn how to find their best post-secondary fit and what steps they should be taking in the near future to fully prepare themselves for college application season in the fall. I know it's scary. Today, I looked it up, and the big November 1st college application deadline, it's only 247 days away. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was like, you're terrified. We also have juniors setting up one-on-one meetings with their counselors to talk in more detail about their personal post-secondary plan and how we can best support them in pursuing those plans. I personally have a senior right now at home, and it's been a wild ride. Now, rough estimate, probably about 1,200 seniors that I've counseled on the college app process over my career. Oh, and my wife is a school counselor too, by the way. And I know what you're all thinking. Poor kid, right? You guys getting it from both ways. Well, we knew all the steps to take, the timelines to follow, how to access all the best college research tools, how to set up visits, when to take those visits, and what questions to ask. Yeah, not one of those thousands of seniors we worked with prepared us for our own experience. It's the emotionality of it all. Nothing prepares you for it, and we get it. Now, I'm not big on advice, but I would like to share a little bit about our own college research, application, and soon-to-be final decision experiences in hopes that it'll prepare you all better. It just so happens that Friday, in addition to those important junior parent emails going out, I know you're all looking for them right now, we also happen to have a GPS speaker here at West for our students, Duncan Kirkwood. I'm not sure if you all had the chance to see him or not, but something he said really resonated with me. In the context of dealing with all the things life has to throw at all our students, he encouraged them to be a GPS. To clarify, not a GPS like him, a Glenbard parent speaker, but a global positioning system. Personally, I like a good analogy. It just helps me visualize things a little bit better. And honestly, I don't know about you, but I didn't really get where he was going with this at the time, and it bothered me. So what do? Yeah, I've been thinking about it ever since. And it's actually a really good thing. A GPS. Now I get it. Like Google Maps or Waze, one you can use to navigate when you're driving somewhere. Then all of a sudden I had an aha moment the other day as I thought about all my road experiences and how similar they are to the whole college application process. This analogy personally provided me some relief and lessened some worry and anxiety. So I'm going to share it with you. All right, picture it with me. We've all been there. You're driving down the highway, especially around Chicago, and all of a sudden your Waze route turns from green to red and your ETA doubles and you're like, ah, crap, didn't see that coming. Right? Been there? There's an overturned semi up there. So what do? You look for alternate routes, right? You're still going to reach your destination as long as there's not a semi on you. It might just take longer or be different than what you expected. You might get rerouted as you miss a turn. There might be some snarls and backups, possibly some closures or a crash here and there. The key is staying the course and just recalibrating, because all of this is happening for a reason. Your alternate route might be more scenic. It might be more enjoyable. You might find some new favorite places, and you might even find a new favorite route, one that you didn't know even existed. In the end, you'll reach your destination. Just don't take that U-turn that keeps getting yelled at you to take. In the end, I truly believe it's the path you were meant to take. So please be patient, expect setbacks, be willing to change as necessary, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. Thanks for listening. Up next, I have the pleasure of introducing Julie Nilsson from Xavier University. Julie, it's all yours.
Whew. All right, well, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here tonight. My name is Julie Nelson. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admission at Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio. Before y'all get excited and you're like, oh my gosh, you came all the way from Ohio for us, I would. I love the Hilltop. but I just live in Batavia, so Roosevelt Road it was, so I'm here. This is my 32nd year doing college admissions, so thank you, yes, I am remarkably well preserved. But I am also the mom of a college graduate. I have a daughter who's a junior, so I am living this experience with you 24/7. And so tonight what I want to do is kind of give you my perspective on this process, to give you some tips and tricks. I always feel like I do this presentation more than once a semester, and certainly my biggest compliment always is when I'm walking back to my car and somebody stops me and says, I'm not scared about this anymore. So hopefully that's the way you'll walk out of here tonight. If you have questions as we go along, hang on to them. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end, but we will get started and talk about your college search. So my boss loves it when I have a room full of people if I just talk a little bit about my institution. So thank you for indulging me. Like I said, I work at Xavier University in Cincinnati. We are one of the 27 Jesuit schools. So if you know Marquette and Loyola and St. Louis and Creighton, we're part of that family. We are a medium-sized school, so about 5,000 students. Our campus itself is located in the city of Cincinnati, but not downtown. So our students love that because they still get the campus vibe, but at the same time have an amazing city to explore. Academically, we are probably best known for our direct entry nursing program, for our Williams College of Business, particularly our marketing, finance, and entrepreneurship programs, which are all ranked in the top 50 nationally. And then our biomedical science program is our pre-med track. Right now, 86% of our students who apply to med school get in. The national average is about 40%. So we do okay, right? We're actually opening our own medical school in 2027. So stay tuned. I am sure there's going to be some sort of pathway for our undergrads to get to our med school. Maybe when I said Xavier, you were like, oh, that's the school that's in March Madness. Yeah, that's us. We are part of the Big East, so our students love that too. That on Tuesday morning, they can sit in a class of about 18, but on Tuesday night, when we're playing Villanova or UConn or Marquette, there's 11,000 people in the stadium, and it's right on campus. So our students love that ability to really get to know each other, but to get to know the world. And about 98% of them have a job within 6 months of graduation. So there's that. And if none of that made you say, ooh, let's look at Xavier, I'm going to drop one more fun fact. We were the first school in North America with a pizza ATM. Done. Thank you. Thank you. No, really, it's pretty amazing. We make fresh pizza every morning. We load it into this machine. You walk up to it. You choose which kind of pizza you want. You give it $9. You wait 3 minutes. You get a 12-inch pizza in a box. That's what college is all about, my friends. So there you go. So let's talk about this. Mr. Weincheck really gave me a good intro, except for the scary 240 whatever days. But as a parent who has gone through this process, and as somebody who does this for a living, I knew all of the facts. I knew all of the things that needed to be done. I was not prepared for the emotional part, right? Because even now I look at my Andrew, who's already graduated from college, and I think, you were just this little nugget I brought home from the hospital, and now we're talking about college. Like, it blew my mind for sure. And so that's kind of what makes this process hard for parents and families to say, I want to be supportive, I want to be helpful, but gosh, I don't know if I'm ready for this next step. But just like anything else, it's like when you sent them off to kindergarten, you didn't think you were ready for that either. So we'll get through this. And for my students in the audience, you have lots of people who are really excited for this next step for you. You have lots of people who want to help you. However, sometimes that help sounds like an incessant line of questioning, right? Mom's following you down the hallway like, what are you thinking about? Do you want a big school? Do you want a small school? Do you want to go in-state? Do you want to go out of state? What are you going to major in? Oh, the worst question of all time, what are you going to major in, right? So here's what I will tell you. You go to a public school. You've probably gone to public schools most of your life, if not all of your life. This is the first chance you have to actually pick a school that might be a best fit for you. It's a time of exploration. It's a time of, you may not know what questions to ask, and that's okay. You have amazing counselors here at Glenbard West to be able to help you. But I think this is also your opportunity to say, just because everybody else goes this one way doesn't mean I have to. And so that's what I really want to talk about tonight. I'm a big believer in the adage that you don't eat an elephant in one bite. We're going to take some very small bites tonight. We're not going to cover this entire process, but I do want to give you a little bit of a timeline for those 200, well, actually, it'd be more than 200 in some days, but from now until May 1st of senior year. There's a lot of things that have to be done in this next year and a half. This is kind of the comprehensive timeline. You'll have plenty of time to talk about those last three. We're going to focus on these two. We're going to talk about the researching piece. We're going to talk about the visiting piece, so that by the time you get to the end of the summer, when you technically are a senior, you have a good list of schools that you're going to apply to. Okay? So let's start here. How do you know what you want when you don't know what you want? You know, all of those questions, students, all those questions that your helpers are asking you, you don't have a frame of reference to answer those questions yet. You know, if you say, hey, do you want a big school or a small school? What does that mean? What does that mean in the day-to-day? I mean, you could look at a statistics sheet and say, oh, this school has 80,000 students like Arizona State, or this school has 600 students like Holy Cross and Notre Dame. What does that mean when I'm on campus, right? And so to give you that frame of reference, this is why you do your research. This is why you ask those questions. This is why you have those one-on-one junior meetings, so that you can really start to understand, what does this mean, not only in the big picture, but what does this mean to me? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to find your best college fit. And I think that really shakes out, I guess, in three stripes or three flavors. The first one is academics. Here's what I'll tell you. You all are getting emails from colleges. Yes? You're all getting more emails from colleges than you could possibly ever want or need, right? So my daughter Charlotte, who's a junior, she started getting emails from a particular school like second semester sophomore year, so about this time last year. And it was, you know, one every couple of weeks. And then it started to pick up. And she would come to me with her phone and she'd be like, Mom, look, I got another email from this school. And I'm like, you know you can unsubscribe, right? And she was like, yeah, but it's kind of funny now. Like, I want to see how many more I get. And I was like, all right, fine. And so then over the summer, I went out to the mailbox and I said, you know, I opened the mailbox and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, there's actual physical mail from this school. And so I walked back in with this mail and I was like, Charlotte, your dreams have come true. You got mail from this school. And she looked at me, didn't miss a beat. And she goes, Mom, if this school was a dude, I'd have to take out a restraining order. And I was like, all right, you are my kid, right? So we all send you this stuff with the shiniest, coolest, most amazing thing on our campus, which if you're just looking for something shiny and cool and amazing, sure, you know, that would be what you were looking for. But take some time and say, does that matter to me? Like I just talked about the pizza ATM, and maybe you're lactose intolerant and you have celiac disease. Like, I don't want a pizza, that's gonna kill me, right? So make sure that you know who you are first. And so start with the academic piece of it. And not just to say, what is my major going to be? Again, terrifying question, but to say, who am I as a learner? What do you know about yourself in the classroom? Are you somebody that wants to sit in a class of 12 or 15 or 20 or 30 so that you can raise your hand and ask a question? Or are you somebody that's like, if I have to take a class to graduate, I will be totally fine if I'm in a lecture hall with 500 people, I have my hood up and one AirPod in, and I'm good to go. There's not a good or a bad. There's not a right or a wrong answer there. It really comes down to what is the best fit for you. So think about that. Think about when you're here at school, what is your favorite class during the day? What is that class that you look forward to? Not, you know, it may also align with, this is the class I do best in, but you might also say, I'm not really strong in this area, but I love it. How can you get stronger in it? What could you do with that skill set? Not necessarily that topic, but that skill set. Maybe you are somebody who has a love for words. Maybe you're somebody that has great computational skills. Maybe you're the MacGyver of your house, right? Like you think about a way to do something better. Those are the skills that are going to lead you to those majors. It's not necessarily, I'm good at math, so I have to be an accountant. There's not a straight line there. So think about those kinds of things as well. Also, and this is a good thing to practice as you go through the rest of this year, how comfortable are you asking for help or acknowledging sometimes that you need help? College moves fast. And so if you are just waiting till that second test to go say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't get this thing that we talked about 8 weeks ago, you're already halfway through the semester. So you need to become a really good self-advocate. Practice that now. Go talk to your school counselors, talk to your teachers, get a sense of, okay, I can't wait on this any longer, because that's going to serve you well when you get to college. So that's flavor 1 of FIT. Flavor 2 of FIT is the social piece of college. And I'm not talking about what happens on Friday night. I don't care how big or how small your school is, it's pretty much the same. The scale is just different, right? But think about it this way. Y'all are used to being in school pretty much all day. The bell rings, you go somewhere else. If you're not where you're supposed to be, you get written up or you get a detention, whatever it might be. You have to have a pass to go to the bathroom, all those kinds of things. When you get to college, you're probably only going to be in a classroom about 3 hours a day. Those 3 hours may not be consecutive hours. That leaves you 21 hours of moderately supervised free time, right? So how are you going to become part of that campus community? Start with, what do you do now? What is it that makes you, you? Maybe you're involved in sports. Maybe you're involved in clubs. Maybe you do volunteering. Maybe you work. Maybe you just say, you know what, I really didn't have time to get involved in stuff in high school, but here are the things I'd like to try in college. We all of us, colleges and universities, will, if you come talk to us at a college fair, or you look on our websites, we all want to give you the number of clubs and organizations we offer, right? So at Xavier, we have about 170 clubs and organizations. I was on a panel with my friend Sylvia from Michigan State the other day. They have like 1,100 student organizations. Nobody can do 1,100 things. Nobody can do 170 things, honestly. But if you think about the stuff you do now and look at that list of activities, you're going to find some things where you can kind of plant your flag. I always tell students pick 3, like pick one that's academic, pick one that's just fun, pick one that's got like a service or a spiritual bend to it, right? You're going to meet a lot of people that way. So think about those things and ask those questions. And I know sometimes it feels weird, like, why would I ask about a club swim team if I want to be a nurse? Like, well, because you're not always going to be in a classroom. So that's part of it. I think also understanding the environment, not just the campus itself, but everything around it. Maybe you are somebody that you have like 12 alarms set and like this is going to be a rough go if I have an early morning class. Okay, do you want to walk to that early morning class, or do you want to have to catch a bus to get to that early morning class that's actually 20 minutes from where you sleep? That's part of that social fit. And I think also thinking about the long game as well, to say, once I get there, once I establish myself as part of this community, how is it going to help me get to the next place? Whether that's a job, whether that's graduate school, whether it's just connecting you to people in the industry that you want to be in. Those are great questions to think about, because you might also want to say, if I go to this school, where do people get their first jobs out of this school? If you're somebody that's like, yeah, I want to go away to school, but I want my first job to be back here home, okay, ask about that. Or if you're like, no, I'm going away and I'm staying away, then ask about that. So definitely work that social angle as well. And then the last piece of fit is the financial fit. And I think, having done this as long as I have, I know that a lot of times when those brochures and those emails come home, you take a look at them, and what's printed on that brochure in that email is the sticker price. Here is what the cost of this college is: tuition, room and board, fees, books, supplies, the whole lot, before financial aid. And there are lots of families that look at that number, which most often now starts with a 6 or a 7. There's about 9 that start with a 9, honestly. And you say, there's no way. There's no way we can do this. But you need to also do your research and say, okay, if this is the sticker price, what do families actually pay? You can ask those questions now, and I'm going to give you a little later in the presentation a couple of ways to really know that number. But I think not only understanding that there's a lot of nuance to the financial aid process, but having that conversation as a family to say, yeah, we kind of have this budget in mind. We think we can probably afford this. Because I think this is for parents, letting your students know this information now, and students, if that number is, hey, we've saved your whole life and you can go wherever you want, awesome. If that is, hey, we've had a couple of rough years and we don't have a whole lot saved for college, that's awesome too. Because now you know what you're working with. And so as you go through this process, the students then are a little more motivated, hopefully, to start asking about scholarships and filling out those scholarship applications and doing what they need to do so that they can find those places that are that good financial fit as well. So that's your homework before you ever start saying, okay, let's make a list of schools to check out. Because you need to know these things about yourself first before you can start saying, here are the places that might be a good fit for me. Okay, so once you have that value proposition in your head, here are the things that I am really looking for. These are must-have, these would be nice to have things. You want to start looking out there beyond, what stickers do I see on the back of everybody's car in the parking lot, right? Or what stickers do I see down my street, or what flags, or whatever it might be. That's a fine place to start. But if you know already, here are the things that I am most interested in, a site like this, and I'm not shilling for the College Board by any means, I just really think this is a pretty user-friendly way to do this. This is Big Future by College Board. It's free. If you've already registered for an SAT, you already have a College Board account, so you can log in here and do this. All of these boxes here on the left-hand side of the screen, those are all criteria that you could use to kind of drill down and find the schools that fit you best. So if you're already thinking my main thing is I don't want to go more than 4 hours from home, or my main thing is get me the heck out of Dodge, 4 hours isn't far enough, whatever it is, you can pull that, just that. I mean, you'd have a tremendously long list, but then you can start to drill down and say, I would be comfortable at a school this size, or in this kind of a setting, or with this set of majors, or that has support for students with 504s or IEPs. Whatever it might be, you can fill in those blanks and it will come up with a list. So that when you meet with your school counselor, it's not just okay, well, tell me about some schools. You can say, here's what I found. Can we talk about these? Are there other schools that are like these that maybe I didn't find? Have those conversations so that you can kind of start to narrow in and say, here are some places that might be a best fit for me. One piece of advice I will give you. I'm going to give you lots of pieces of advice tonight, but this one is a big one. There are tons of people in your life who have done this before. They have sent kids of their own to college. They have gone to college themselves. They are in the thick of it right now with their seniors, and they want to be helpful because this is not something you do every day. And so they'll come up to you and they'll say, oh my gosh, I can't believe, Katie is a junior and she's starting this process. I heard that, ... right? Beware of the I heard that's, because those are well-meaning comments, but those can very much take you off the path that you were on, right? And so it's kind of like the old telephone game where it started out probably with a grain of truth, but as it got passed along, it got a little wonky, right? So how do you know the facts? How do you know exactly what the truth is? Friends, there's somebody like me, well, maybe not exactly like me, but there's somebody that does my job at every school you are considering, and that is your admission counselor. We are here to help you. So I will tell you this, if you haven't yet, if you've got a list of schools or you already know, hey, there's 3 or 4 that I'm pretty excited about, another little bit of homework for you tonight. Go home, go to that website of the school that you are interested in, go to the admission page. On the admission page, there is probably a link that says something like meet our staff or meet your counselor. What you're going to do is drill down, however the school wants you to drill down. Here's my zip code, here's my high school, whatever it might be. But once you put that information in, you will find out who that person is that is the bridge between Glenbard West and that college. They are there to be your guide and companion through this process. Please use us for the resources we are. Keep in mind, all of us work for the Office of Admission. We don't work for the Office of Denial, right? That would be a horrible soul-sucking job, right? Somebody said, Julie, what do you do for a living? I'd say, oh, I crush dreams. Like, no, that's not what my job is. My job is to say, here is the information you need to know about my school. Let me learn some things about you. Let's see if this is a good fit. And then at the end of the day, if you are a good fit, I'm going to be the one that goes to my dean or my director and says, this is why this kid should be part of our community. This is why we should admit this student, right? And I was doing this presentation earlier this fall, and I was talking about like, so yeah, get to know us, email us, call us, whatever. And this one dad came up to me after the presentation. He goes, so you want my daughter to talk to you before she's applied? And I said, yeah, that would be great. And he goes, you're the enemy. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you're going to make the decision. It's like, you know, if you were going to go to a job interview, you wouldn't tell somebody all the bad things. And I was like, I don't need to know like her deepest, darkest secrets. I just need to know like, why did you get that B- in math? I want to help you get in. And so that was a real like mind scramble for him for sure. But that's what we do. We're the ones that come and visit in the fall. We're the ones that probably read your applications. I always say, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm based here. So I know a lot about here. Again, I've recruited here pretty much my whole career. I know a lot about my school. I can make those connections for you to say like, here's what is similar to, you know, Glen Ellen in Cincinnati. Let me help you understand this in a way that, again, you have a frame of reference for. So that's what we are here to do, to guide you and help you. And we can't help you if we don't know that you need help. So again, get good at raising your hand and saying, I'm not sure. One good way to meet us is by going to a college fair. These are all over the suburbs all spring, and I'm going to give you some dates here in a couple of slides. But this is a way, once you've identified some schools or you're kind of thinking about some schools, to say, okay, could I actually talk to a human and not just Google a couple of answers? Absolutely, we're there. And it's also a great way for you to identify some schools that maybe you'd never considered, because we're right there in front of you. So if you're going to a college fair, I want to give you a few pieces of tips and tricks, some advice here for that. If you've never been to a college fair, I'll kind of lay out the land for you. I will be standing behind a table with a banner with brochures, you know, and pop-up things, and just to answer questions, right? And so what happens a lot of times at those college fairs is somebody will walk up to my table, pick up my brochure, look at me, and then we stand there for like 30 seconds, like a weird game of chicken. Like, where do we even start? So here's number one. Introduce yourself. You know, hey, I'm Steve and I go to Glenbard West. Hey, Steve, I'm Julie, I work at Xavier. Awesome. Okay, it's a conversation. I don't expect you to come up with a fully formed question. I was at a college fair earlier today. My top question was, so what's this school about? Okay, that's not probably the best question to ask, but it's a place to start for sure. When you go to these college fairs, parents, if you remember when we went to college fairs, we spent the majority of our time there filling out little cards with our name and address, which kind of defeated the whole purpose of being at a college fair because you didn't really have those conversations. So now students have the ability to use what's called StriveScan. And StriveScan is a website where they can punch in all of that information. It will generate a QR code for them so that when they come up to my table and we have that conversation and they say, wow, I'm really interested in Xavier now, I'd like some more information, I can scan their QR code and get all that name and address information. It only goes between you and me. We're not selling it. It's not like, you know, it goes on some weird list somewhere. We're not stealing your soul. It's just a way for us to collect that information. So save yourself some time, get that done before you go to the fair, and then head on in. A really good piece of college lingo for you. So let's say you know Marquette. Most people do around here. So, but you think, Marquette's a little too close, or it's a little too urban, or it doesn't really have the major I'm looking for. What you could do is at that college fair, walk up to the Marquette table, talk to one of my friends from Marquette, and in your conversation, ask them, well, who are your cross apps? And they'll look at you like, you saw Julie's presentation, right? But what you're asking is, if a student applies to Marquette, where else do they often apply? So that Marquette rep will say, well, St. Louis, Xavier, Dayton, Butler, maybe Drake, maybe Bradley. So now all of a sudden, instead of the one school you know, you've got 6 or 7 that share some qualities with that one school you know. That just added some things onto your list to go and check out. Are they all going to be perfect fits? Maybe not, but at least they've got some of those same qualities that made that initial school so attractive to you in the first place. So keep that in mind. Cross apps is a good one. And then this should seem like common sense, but I always laugh. I'm the school that starts with an X. I am always the caboose of the college fair. There is never anybody to the other side of me. And always, like 30 minutes into the fair, somebody will finally make it back to me, and they'll look around, and then it's like the light bulb goes off over their head, and they go, this is alphabetical. Yeah, Sherlock, it's alphabetical, right? So here's what I will tell you. As human beings, we are real conditioned to always start at the beginning of the alphabet. Here's what happens in practice at a college fair. For the first 30 minutes, Augustana and Bradley and Butler and whoever else is at the beginning of the alphabet, their lines are miles long, while Western Michigan and Xavier and whoever else is Western Illinois, all of us at the end of the alphabet are standing there like, God, I hope they get back to us at some point. So here's my advice. Start at the M's, start at the U's, start at the X. Shake it up a little bit, because if you go into that fair and here are the 12 schools I really want to talk to, highlight those, hit those in any order you want. After that, now you've got all the time in the world to say, wow, I didn't even know there was a school in that city. Let's talk to them a little bit. So that said, here are 4 college fairs you might want to check out in the next couple of months. March 9th, if you are interested in Jesuit education, a good majority of the 27 Jesuit schools, we will have our own college fair at the Doubletree in Arlington Heights, and that's from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. On March 12th, the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling, which is our professional organization, both the high school counselors and the college folks, they will have one of their regional college fairs at North Central in Naperville, and that's from 6 to 8. There will be about, I'm going to say 200 schools from all over the country and all over the world, actually, there. A little bit later in April, the Illinois National College Fair will be at Moraine Valley in Palos Heights. That one, too, is going to be a big one. That's about 200 schools. And then if you just want to come follow me down Roosevelt Road, on April 17th, that same mostly group of students or schools will be at Geneva High School from 6 to 8. So if you're starting this research process and you want to start making those connections with the people that are going to read your applications for the most part, come and see us at one of these college fairs. Okay, so you did your research, you went to the college fair, now you've got some schools you're really interested in, and you think, okay, it's probably to my advantage to ask some follow-up questions. So I know email is not everybody's favorite. I know students, you probably have an email box that has like 6,000 unread emails in it, because that's just the way you are. But I will tell you this, most of the important stuff from colleges and universities comes via email. You're going to get your acceptance letters via email. You're going to get your financial aid packages via email. You're going to get invitations to admitted student programs and open houses and all of those kinds of things via email. So it's really important to start making that shift to say, it's not the devil's tool. Like, you can go ahead and use that. So here's first piece of advice. Create an email address that is just for college stuff. So just, something basic where hey, if I'm going to register for StriveScan, or I'm going to fill out an application, or I'm going to register to take an ACT or an SAT, This is the email I use so that all of my college stuff is in one place. Keeps your life a little more organized. Once you set up that email, please also set up a signature file for that email. So at the bottom of every email you send, it has your name, it has your high school and your graduation year, it has your email address again. Because if you're communicating with me, it helps me remember who you are. And not to, again, I don't want this to sound scary, but as you're communicating with schools, we're keeping a record that you're doing that. I know that sounds so weird, but basically, when you email me and I email you back, I want to have a paper copy of what we talked about. So I just copy and paste that into your record on my end. It also is really helpful if I'm out and about someday and you call or you email and one of my colleagues, is answering the general email box that day. They know, here's a student who already knows this and this and this. I don't have to start at point A. There's also a number of schools that use what's called demonstrated interest in the admission process. And so basically, y'all know we're looking for you because we send you so much stuff. At some point, you may want to reciprocate, particularly because there are those schools that use demonstrated interest. And they will tell you who they are. It's not like it's a secret, like, oh, if you only would have sent me an email, we could have admitted you. No, like it's not that at all. It's very clear to, if a school is going to do that. The other piece of this is remember that the way you write that email also projects your first impression. So write like the college student you want to be. It doesn't have to be like super verbose. It should sound like you, but remember the basic rules of grammar. Do not LOL, I will OMG. Like that's kind of the basics. And check it. Check your email regularly. Go through and delete. Go through and unsubscribe. That's going to save you so much time and effort and anxiety. So what I wanted to do is give you a few emails, and these are actual emails that I have received over the years, changed all the details so that I didn't, incriminate anybody for sure, but wanted to show you like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this one, A+, for so many reasons. One, there's a lovely greeting. Dear Ms. Nelson. Oh my gosh, at some point I'm gonna be like, hey, if you wanna call me Julie, that's fine. But if you are somebody that was raised that you never call an adult by her first name, that's fine too. But here's where we are. So Sally introduces herself to me, tells me where she goes to school, says, hey, I'm excited about Xavier. When should I come and visit? I love this email because could she have found that on the internet? Could she have gone to our website and found our visit page? Absolutely. But if you haven't been to a college website in a while, they're kind of mazes sometimes. So this is good for two reasons. One, it shows me, hey, here's a student who's interested. But two, now when I respond back to her, I can just send her the link and say, here's where you sign up, right? Easy peasy. And then of course, she's got her signature file here. So fabulous. Her cousin Jimmy, on the other hand, his needs a little work. So here's my friend Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy, the first thing that, this is, if I have like a list of my pet peeves, hey is the worst. Like at some point we might get to hey, but not on the first go round, right? And then my friend Jimmy doesn't capitalize the letter I. Jimmy recognizes that he's probably not our key student for admission with his 2.2 GPA. And so Jimmy wants to be accepted in. Like, oh, Jimmy, I'm not making an exception for you. Like you are, this is not the way I want you to make that introduction. So again, he could have written that and said, hey, I'm a little concerned about my GPA. What are you looking for? But there's that. And then my friends, because you get so many of those emails, you think that there is a robot sending them and a robot receiving them. And so sometimes you just respond back like, nobody's gonna see it. And it looks something, and this is real, like this. I don't even know. It's like Prince wrote it with all these weird capitalizations, right? So I don't know. And then there's this, again, because you don't think a human is going to read it. Stuff like this. Oh, friends, remember that humans read these. This is pretty tame, right? I have gotten some things where I had to turn around and send that email back to a counselor Don't let me send that to Mrs. Rubino, because we will both find you in the hallway. Like, it will not be good. So anyway, remember, email's your friend. So once you've done all that, the next step really is to get out and visit some campuses. You are going to see lots of amazing things on the internet. If anything good came out of the pandemic, it's that the virtual tours are so much more robust. There's so much more to see on those websites. However, you're not going to get the vibe, the feel, the, oh my gosh, I could see myself here, until you get some boots on the ground. So let's talk about that. I get asked all the time, should we visit during the summer or should we visit during the school year? The truth of the matter is, those first visits you do, you may not fall in love with any of those schools. And so if you're just trying to get that sense of what is right, big, small, medium, urban, suburban, rural, summer's a great time to do that, just to get the lay of the land. Because honestly, once you go through the process, once you get admitted, you're probably going to want to go back and kick the tires a little differently, because now it's not just like, well, this was fun in the summer, but this is, oh my gosh, this might be the place I call home for the next 4 years. I need to look at this with a little different, more critical eye. So take those visits in the summer if that's what works best for you. You know, the other thing too is spring break is coming up. For a lot of us, our college spring, sorry, I just touched this microphone and the recording is going to be like, the college spring breaks, like ours is next week and yours isn't till the end of March. So know that when you're on spring break, we're back in session. So that's a really good time to visit. If you want to wait till the fall, totally fine. Let us know that you're coming. We all have some way on our website to pre-register for these events. That helps us prepare and make sure we've got enough tour guides and enough donuts and enough free t-shirts and whatever else we're going to do for you when you get to campus. Campus visits kind of come in two flavors. One would be kind of the daily visit or the individual visit, depending on how you want to frame it. Like at Xavier, we have 2 a day, where we have one at 10 o'clock in the morning, one at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We have capacity for up to 50 families. Sometimes we have a room full of people. Sometimes on a Tuesday in February, it's 2 families, right? So, but it is a little more individualized, so that if you have a school that's pretty high on your list, that might be a good way to visit. If, on the other hand, you're like, I don't know, it's on the list, but I'm not sure if this is going to be right, try and do an open house. Open houses allow you a little more anonymity to be able to say, we're going to go, we're going to check this out. If we go through the tour and we realize, nope, we can get our free stuff, go back to the car, and never darken that doorstep again. And nobody's going to chase you to the parking lot, right? So keep that in mind too. Those kinds of visits might be a little bit different. And please ask us for local recommendations, because we know that your whole experience of our campus visit can be shaped by, you know, how you got there, where you stayed, all of that. We also know that if you're coming to our corner of the world, wherever that corner of the world is, you're probably not just visiting us. You know, I always like to ask families, I'm like, oh, are you on the Grand Circle Tour of the Midwest this week? You know, because you're like, oh, we're just going to go down this highway and see what schools we can see. So if you know, hey, we're going to visit University of Cincinnati and we're going to visit Xavier, you could ask us, you know, if we do the UC tour in the morning, can we make it to your campus in the afternoon? I'll be like, heck yes, we're 2.5 miles apart. I can even tell you where to stop for lunch in the middle. So let us help you with that part of it as well. Because once you get to our campuses, I will say this, if you have not been on campus visits yet, they're pretty similar in a lot of ways. 2 things that you're always going to have. You're going to have an information session, so something like this, person with a microphone and a PowerPoint telling you all the facts and figures about the school, and then you will get a campus tour. 9 times out of 10, those campus tours are led by students. Those students are incredibly vivacious. They're darling. They look amazing in school gear, and they walk backwards better than anybody you've met in your entire life, right? Here's what I will tell you. I love our student workers, but I will also tell you they are part of our operation. Not that they're, you know, spinning tails. They are very candid, but I think it's really in your best interest. After the tour is over, go back to where you saw students. Go back to the quad, go back to the library, go back to the CAF, go back to wherever, talk to them too. And I know that is the craziest thing I just said all night. Like, you want me to talk to some random person on this college campus? Yes, I do. Because you're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. And even just the way they interact with you as somebody who's considering maybe being your classmate, I think tells a lot about the kinds of people that call that school home. So talk to everybody. Eat something. I'm always like, eat something when you get there. Yes, eat something. Try out the calf. You know, we'll probably give you free stuff, but we'll probably give you a coupon too. So if you're gonna add to your hoodie or collection, your ball cap collection, you can do that. I will say this too. Do not feel compelled to make every appointment possible on your first visit. Because again, what if you get there, you do the tour, you do the information session, and you realize this is not what I expected, this is not my jam, and then all of a sudden, you've got 3 more hours of appointments with the faculty and the band director and whoever else. You can save those for later, or thanks to the magic of technology, you can get home, call your admission counselor, call your Julie, and say, hey, you know what? We really had a great time. Is it possible for us to set up a meeting with that biology professor? Absolutely, we can do that for you. You know, or, hey, my tour guide was from San Diego. Is there somebody from the Chicago area that I can talk to? Yeah, we can do that too. So don't feel compelled to have all of those meetings all the way at once. And just kind of see what else is going on campus. You know, look at all the posters on the walls and read the chalk on the sidewalks and just kind of get a sense of, could I see myself here walking? There was just a poster that fell off the wall and it scared, I was like, oh my gosh, it was like a bat coming out of the wall. You know, so just to kind of get a sense of, could I see myself here? And last piece of advice, remember you're going to be walking around campus. Be prepared for the elements, be prepared shoe-wise. I love my shoes, but you know, if you have uncomfortable shoes on, not a great day. Okay, so you've decided, let's go see some campuses. Maybe you're still in that gray area of, I'm not really sure if I want a big school or a small school. I'm not really sure what that would even feel like. I got you. Spring break is coming. We all want to get out of the cold. I mean, we've had some beautiful days, but this is like fake spring. We all know winter's going to be back, right? So I'm going to send you someplace south, maybe someplace a little warmer, someplace definitely different than Glen Ellen, Central Illinois. You're going to love it. And here's why. Because if you start on the western, let's just say you use I-74 as your home base, right? If you start on the western edge of Illinois on I-74, you can start in Rock Island, go to Augustana College. Augustana is your Division III liberal arts, 2,300 or so students. See if you like that. You might say, oh my gosh, but that's like as big or even a little bit smaller than my high school. Go see it. See if that's too small feeling for you. Go like 35 minutes east to Peoria, go see Bradley. Bradley's about 5,000, has 5 distinct colleges, is a little more urban. See if you like that vibe. Once you're done at Bradley, go another 35 minutes to Bloomington Normal. In Bloomington Normal, you can see 2 very different schools, and they're on the same street, right? So on one end, you have Illinois State, medium-sized public institution, about 18,000 students. Down the street is Illinois Wesleyan, with about 1,300 students, a little more nationally recognized liberal arts institution. Which one feels better? Or maybe neither of them feel better. I would say, to put this in perspective, at ISU, there's a residence hall called Watterson Towers. Watterson Towers holds 2,500 students. So you could put all of Illinois Wesleyan, not just the students, but like faculty, staff, everybody in that one residence hall. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. That's your thing to figure out. And then when you're done there, go another 35, 40 minutes to Champaign-Urbana. Go see the University of Illinois, our state flagship. And here's why I give you these 5. Not so that you fall in love with the name on the door. Like my friends who work at these schools aren't like, please mention my school today, Julie. That's not what this is about. This is, if you like an Augustana, maybe you're gonna like a St. Norbert or a Loras or a St. Ambrose or a Carthage, right? If you like a Bradley, you might like a Xavier or a Dayton or a Marquette. right? If you like a U of I, you might like an Ole Miss or an Alabama. You get the feel for what these schools are like. Now, if you fall in love with one of them, great, then that makes your job a little bit easier. But at least now you can start crossing some things off your list. And if at the end, and that's like 2.5, 3 days, you could do all of that, right? So at the end of those couple of days, you're like, we still got some time. This has been magical. I-74, Julie, you're right. Like, this is the best spring break ever. How can we keep this going? Well, if you keep going east on I-74, when it ends, you know where you are? Cincinnati, Ohio, come see me, right? And so you could do this with 74, you could do it with 65, you could do it with 94, whatever, whatever trips your trigger. But gosh, get out and visit and see what you like. It's also your time to be a detective. So to kind of test your theories, to see if the things that you learned online are absolutely true. We're also going to ask questions of you, so know that. And one of the things I always encourage families to do, if you can, is personalize your questions. Question I get all the time: what is your faculty to student ratio? That's an easy question. It's 1 to 11. It's just math, right? And maybe when you're asking that question, what you really want to know is, how big is my freshman English class going to be? If I'm struggling in math, do I raise my hand? Do I go to office hours? What are office hours? Do you have a math lab? Like, all of those things will lead you to that sometimes. So if you don't know to ask those questions, that's okay. But the more you can personalize them and make them yours, I think as you go through this process, you're going to gain that vocabulary, and you can always go back and find your Julie, or get back on the website and say, okay, I asked this question when we visited this school. Now I need to fill it in for these other places. So here's a few good questions to ask. I know your school counselors have all kinds of sheets and information that you can find more questions. These are kind of some of the basics. One question I get asked a ton is, what is your average GPA for admission? Again, it's a fine question. I'm not, dissing anybody for asking that question. But I don't know a lot of math, but I do know about averages, right? So you have all these data points, you add them together, you divide by how many data points you have, you come up with this middle point on this line. So if I told you the average GPA at Xavier is about a 3.67, if you were sitting there and you're like, oh, I have a 3.5. Crap, I'm below average. Well, technically, yes, you are. But when you ask this question about what is the profile of admitted students, what you're going to get is something a little bit more robust. Because if I showed you this now and said that the middle 50% of students we admit, so the bulk of students we admit, have between a 3.2 and a 4.0, now you're like, oh, with that 3.5, I'm like the middle of the middle. I have a really good chance to be admitted. And so all of the schools you're considering will give you this information this way. And I think what this can tell you is a lot of things. It can certainly tell you kind of like where you fit. And remember that that's the middle 50%. So a quarter of our students are going to be above that 4.0. A quarter of our students are going to be below that 3.2. Now, on that side, to quote my friend Katie Heron, the limit does not exist. Why? Because people have like 5 and 6 and 12 and 100-point GPAs. So that's going to be here. But at some point, the school's going to say, we really aren't comfortable admitting students who have a GPA here or lower. And so this is a different conversation that I have than with a student who's on that other side. So you want to have a good sense of what you're looking for academically and where you fit in that middle 50%. I think the other piece of this is understanding that a lot of schools will base their merit scholarships kind of on this middle 50%. So that if you are in there or higher, there may be some merit scholarship for you. So if that's going to be a huge part of your decision, the scholarship amounts, then you have to kind of weigh out, well, if I am way on the right side of somebody's middle 50%, so I get a great scholarship, what is my experience in the classroom going to look like? If I am the one that's always setting the curve. is that going to be the right place for me academically? Or could I stop, could I go someplace where I get a little less scholarship, but I still have that competition or that challenge in the classroom? So that's something I can't answer for you. That's something that you have to do, but that's that academic fit. The social fit piece, certainly, I talked a little bit about getting involved and the rule of 3. I think assessing, like, how am I going to make that jump from high school to college is just as important, because there's so many other factors besides just like, woo, I can go to a football game on a Saturday, or there's a really cool rock climbing wall in the rec center. Like, that's amazing, but also think about, not every day is Instagrammable, right? So what's going to happen on those days when the bottom falls out? Like, who's there to support you? How are you going to be, helped along, whether it's your academic advisor or your RA, all of those kinds of things too. Yes, we hope you have more good days than bad days, but know that that's part of college as well. And so you want to make sure that that social fit isn't just the fun stuff, but the stuff that's going to help you thrive in the long run. And then, as I promised, a couple of things about finances at this juncture. So here's the deal. Yes, you can look up the sticker price right now for any school. You really won't know what your actual bottom line cost is until about this time next year if you're a junior, because you have to be admitted first, and then if a school requires you or asks you to complete a FAFSA or a free application for federal student aid, financial aid time is right about now. So you'll get that bottom line right about now. But it's hard to go into this process going, well, we'll see what happens, right? So 2 ways you can kind of get a better picture of what's going to happen. One is called a net price calculator. And net price calculators are on school websites. Again, I caution you, don't go poking around for it. The easiest way to find it, go to your favorite search engine, type in the name of the school and net price calculator, it will pop up. Once that pops up, it's going to ask you 2 sets of questions. The first set is all about your students' academics. So it's going to ask about GPA, it's going to ask about core classes, it's going to, if the school requires a test score, it will ask that information, so that if the school awards merit scholarship, it'll show you, here's what we can offer you. The other set of questions will ask some questions about your family's financial situation. So they can determine, will you qualify for any state or federal grant aid? Will you qualify for work study? Will you qualify for loans? So that once you hit submit on those net price calculators, as accurate as you can be is as accurate as that number at the end. And families always say, oh, Julie, right? Like, you're going to make it look good. I'm like, who's that going to help? If I give you some pie in the sky number now, and you get all excited, and then when your financial aid package comes, it has no bearing in reality, now you're mad at me. I got to work twice as hard to find another kid to take your spot, right? So we're going to try and give you that number that is based in reality, so that you can budget accordingly or keep looking, quite frankly. The other place you can go for some of this really good financial information is College Navigator. College Navigator is run by the Department of Education. And so it has, if you are a data wonk, if you have a spreadsheet already with college stuff in it, you are going to love College Navigator. It is all the facts and figures, and every school's got a series of tabs on its page. One of those tabs says tuition and aid. So not only does it have the raw data, but it also breaks it down by income bands. So you can say, if our family is in this income band, it will show you families in your income band usually pay about this to go to this college. So again, it's not going to be spot on, but it'll at least give you kind of a ballpark figure to go there. The other thing too is find your Julies. Talk to your school counselors. It's not too early to start asking those questions about scholarships. So you can start to plan, like, oh, am I going to have to write another essay, or do I have to fill out an application, or is it just part of the admission process? So we can explain how that piece goes as well. Okay, so this is all the research. This is all the how do I find that place that's the best fit for me. However, some of you are probably still sitting there thinking, oh my God, what if I don't get in anywhere? What if this is all for naught? And here's why you even think that in the first place. Because there is a very finite number of schools that are incredibly selective. These are places where, you know, the admit rate is somewhere around 4 or 5%. Let me put that in real numbers. Like if they had 100 students apply, 95 of them would get that little skinny envelope that says, thanks for your time. We don't got time for you, right? So they get the most press though. And so everybody gets nervous. Like, this is such a hard process and nobody gets in. And it feels a little bit like this, right? Like, oh my God, we're going to throw those acceptance letters in the cornucopia and good luck, kids. We'll be over here watching on the screen. That is not it. You're doing all this research. You're finding these places that fit because quite frankly, you're going to get way more yeses than nos. You're going to open up that computer and click on the link and the balloons and the streamers and the confetti are going to fly, right? So go into this process knowing we need you. We need you to fill our classrooms. We need you in our dorms. We need you in our stadiums. You just have to find those colleges that fit you best. Now, I'm not saying don't dream big. And what I'll tell you is this. Most students are going to apply somewhere between 5 and 9 colleges. So let's just say for the purposes of my exercise and for the ease in my math-addled brain, let's say you apply to 7. The way I would break that down, I would apply to 2 schools that I would consider foundational schools. Back in the day, we called them safety schools, but I don't love that term because it feels a lot less than. Like, oh, I got to go to my safety school. Like, this is, I could see myself there. I know we can pay for it. I know I can get in. Am I super excited? Maybe not, but I like it, right? You'd be fine. Pick 3 that are target schools. And quite frankly, these are probably the 3 that you're going to stay up at night thinking about in March and April of your senior year because they're all such great fits. It's like, I don't even know, I could go any of these 3 ways and it would be awesome. So pick those 3. And then maybe have 2 that are reaches or stretches, you know? Have them, those schools that, you know, like your Northwesterns and your University of Chicago's and your Browns and your whatevers that admit less than 10% of their students. Or maybe you're like, ooh, Hawaii Pacific sounds amazing, right? That's a reach or a stretch for all kinds of reasons, right? So plan it out so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Eggs are too expensive to put in one basket, right? So make sure you're spreading this out. Use your counselors as a resource to say, is this balanced? So that you do get more yeses than nos. Okay, so what can you do now? I'm gonna say it's March in 2 days. So it's March of junior year. Like, what next? 1, and I don't want to scare you. You already got scared once about this November 1 thing. It's still sticking in my head. But when we read your application, not just we, Xavier, but the royal we, when we read your application, we're looking at freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. We're looking at 6 semesters of high school work, which is not to say that senior year does not count. Senior year absolutely counts because we're going to get a list of those classes. But when you apply, you're applying sometime between Labor Day and Halloween of senior year. You don't have senior year grades yet. So my friends, this is the semester to really bring it, right? Don't let the senioritis start to creep in a little bit. I know some of your senior friends probably are there, but be your best self academically. Learn how to be that self-advocate to ask those questions. Think about how you study, and maybe this is a time to say, is this the most effective way for me to study? And maybe you've studied the same way since middle school. Does it still work? If it does, great. If it doesn't, again, use your counselors as a resource and kind of find some new ways to shake that out. Find your Julies. You know, that's one of the things that I love about what I do is that the Julie at Providence College is my friend Megan, right? And so if you're looking at other schools, we kind of know, not that we're like sitting around, you know, drinking cups of coffee like, ooh, who's applied to your school? But I also know if we get talking and I'm like, you know what, you might be a better fit for this school, I'm going to send you that way. So it's not an industry where we're like fighting each other for students. We want you to find your best fit. So find your Julies or your Megans or whoever and get out and visit some schools. Have fun with this process. You're going to have some amazing adventures. You're going to get a lot of free stuff. And at the end of the day, you're going to find some places that you could absolutely call home. So here is me. I am happy to take some questions now. I know we've got to get you to some breakout rooms. The QR code will take you to a form if you want some more information about Xavier. But certainly if you've got questions for me, you can call me, you can email me. If you're at the Trader Joe's in Batavia, you might see me. So, that's how we go.